Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor, and today we're going to be continuing my 2020 reading wrap-up with books 26 through 30. Yes, Nook is here again, but he always wants to sit behind me. If you guys don't know, these are the videos where I do shorter miniature reviews of all the most recent books that I've read. Since we're social distancing, my hair is getting a little bit long, but whatever. I don't go into a ton of detail about any of these. I don't spoil anything. I didn't end up doing any individual reviews for any of these books, but if you would like one, let me know. But let's get started. The 26th book that I read in 2020 is The Consuming Fire by John Scalzi. This is the second book in the Interdependency series. In this series, you follow the civilization of people that have been cut off from Earth for a very long time. They are kept together with something called the flow, and so they're able to travel from place to place within the empire by traveling with this flow, or through the flow. The problem is, at the beginning of the first book, you find out that the flow is starting to break down, and a bunch of these places, if isolated, are not going to be able to survive. The main character of this series, I would say, is Cardinia. You follow a couple of other characters, but you mainly follow her. At the beginning of the first book, you find out that she is to become the next emperor. She was an illegitimate child, so she wasn't really supposed to, but her older brother was killed. And so through this series, you follow Cardinia, who becomes Emperor Greyland II, as she and these other characters are trying to figure out how to keep as many people alive as possible, as well as making sure that people listen to them. In this book, it just continues that story. There isn't a whole lot plot-wise that happens. You mainly find out a little bit more about how the Empire first started and just a lot of the background information. There are a couple of things that happen, but I think this book is mainly just about these characters trying to make sure that people listen to them and that they stay in control of what's going on and control the narrative. Hi, Bubs. What's up? Need something? And so I thought it was interesting for that, but I didn't really love this one as much as I've loved some of his other books. I see a lot of people comment on how the ending of this book is amazing, but I didn't think that it was all that surprising. So in the end, I gave this book 3 stars. I liked it. It's a very quick read. The characters in John Scalzi's books are very acerbic, I guess. They definitely give their opinions a lot and don't care what people think. So if you like characters like that, you'll probably like this as well. A lot of John Scalzi's main characters are similar to each other. This is just the first one that follows mainly female characters instead of his other books, which follow a lot of guy characters. So, check! After that, I read Threshold Volume 1, which is called The Hunted. This is set in the New 52 DC universe. This is set on a planet called Tolerance, which is weirdly named because a lot of people are not very tolerant on this planet. Anytime one of the higher up people in the society find someone that they cannot tolerate, they put them in this reality TV show where the contestants are hunted down and they're assigned bounties, and so everyone on the planet is a participant and they try to kill these people that are being hunted. I originally picked this up because I wanted to find out what happened with Blue Beetle next. I found somewhere online that Blue Beetle is in this, but I don't really suggest picking it up if that's your motivation because he's a very side character and is not in it very much. This comic also follows way too many characters all at the same time, all at the very beginning. I think that this would have very much benefited from being spread out a bit more and starting slowly. If just a couple of characters had been introduced at the beginning and then their plot threads had been able to grow and then include more as the series went along, that would make more sense, but there was just way too much going on. There were so many characters. If you're not familiar with a lot of the Lantern Corps, like Green Lantern and Red Lanterns and all of that, then you're going to be lost. I think that the core of the story is interesting, like all of these different people having to stay alive on this planet where everyone's trying to hunt them down, but I think it just tackles too much. I've read online where a lot of older DC characters are put into this together, but I don't have any familiarity with any of those characters, so I didn't really appreciate it for that either. I ended up giving this like 2.5 stars because it was entertaining while I was reading it, but there was just a lot. I will say though that if you love Larfleeze, which is the Orange Lantern, he has an entire issue in here, and I think that this is where his story gets spun off, and I think he got his own run because of this, so that's cool. After that, I read Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. I borrowed this from the library. I don't know if you guys remember, but last year there was some drama about a YA author getting upset because this person joined their school committee to make sure that one of her books wasn't chosen over a book like this book, and so I wanted to read it because of that, but also just because it's about the legal field and it follows someone that is a lawyer, and I find those things interesting. This is a memoir by Bryan Stevenson. He was a Harvard graduate, and he decided to start working in the criminal defense system. Specifically, he works with children that are given life sentences for crimes that they've committed while they're minors, as well as people that have been put on death row. The United States has a very harsh criminal justice system that a lot of people criticize, so I wanted to hear what it's like from him. I think that this memoir is really, really well written. I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook because I listened to this on audiobook. I think that Bryan Stevenson does a really good job of weaving all of these different stories together. He talks about some of his own time. He talks about his time at Harvard, as well as getting started in the legal field. He talks about just his day-to-day life and his practice, and making sure that they have enough money to hire other lawyers and represent as many people as possible. With all of that and moving and just going from state to state, he weaves in these different stories of these inmates that have been sentenced to death row. The main case that he weaves throughout the entirety of the memoir is the case of Walter McMillian. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Anyway, he was on death row for 6 years for a crime he didn't commit, and then it goes through his entire legal process and figuring out where everything went wrong and how he got this conviction based off of what evidence was produced, everything like that. He also weaves in other stories of other people that he's represented with various results. Some of them are some of the minors that were convicted as children that he was representing, trying to get them off of a life sentence for something that they did when they were 12. So I just thought this was incredibly interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's well written. I think that the messages that it has in terms of talking about the criminal justice system and cruel and unusual punishment, all of that were awesome, and I highly, highly recommend this. I gave this one 5 stars. Just everything about it was so well done. How he wove the different cases into the book, talking about his own life and his own experiences and these people's lives and their experiences. The United States is one of the harshest countries when it comes to punishing children as well, which is terrible. So I definitely recommend this one. Again, I gave it 5 stars. It's one that I would probably reread just because it was so interesting. And there was also a movie adaptation, but I haven't watched that. Let me know if it was really good. The 29th thing that I read in 2020 is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. This was the House Salt Book Club for March, I believe. Emily St. John Mandel is most well known, I think, for Station 11, but this is set in a parallel universe to that one, like a what-if universe. And all of her books kind of overlap in that way, but you don't need to have read any of them to understand this. There are certain characters or certain events that take place in other books that are talked about, but it doesn't super spoil anything, so know that. This book is also difficult to describe. There are a lot of characters and a lot of different threads happening. At the core of the story is a woman named Vincent. At the beginning of the book, you find out that she is the trophy wife to a guy named Jonathan Alcaides, and Jonathan has been running a Ponzi scheme for a very long time and has not ever been caught. You very early know that the Ponzi scheme gets found out, and then it just follows all of these different characters, how they're related to each other, and how their worlds change and shift over the course of their lives and interact with each other. You also find out at the beginning of the book, it's also in the blurb. Here are all my notes because it was so complicated. Before she was a trophy wife, she was working at a hotel, and her stepbrother etches into the window of the hotel, "Why don't you just swallow broken glass?" And that's also something that's recurring in the book. You're wondering why her brother wrote that. What does it mean? Where did that come from? And I just think that this book was really, really well done. One of the main things that's tackled in this book is talking about how wealth is like its own country. It has its own rules, it has its own language, it has its own just social structure. And even if you become wealthy, you don't necessarily have the same status as someone that was in wealth when they were born. So it was just such an interesting take, and I really liked a lot of the different things that were explored in this. I will leave a link up in the card symbol to the live show, which will have spoilers, because we talk about this book in depth. But if you don't care about spoilers or you have read the book, we talk about a lot of our feelings about this book in there. It's hard to talk about without starting to spoil stuff, so I don't want to do that. I just think that she does a really good job with weaving all of these different characters, all of these different plot threads, and tackling a lot of cool topics. I think one of the most interesting things in this as well is how willfully ignorant people will be. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that it will be better on a reread so that I can pay attention to all of the different small details that she does that paint this bigger picture and pop in and out of the story. A lot of things, a lot of small characters, a lot of small details will come back in the novel multiple times, and I just really, really enjoyed it. Again, I was like taking notes the entire time so that we could talk about them in the live show. And yeah, I definitely recommend The Glass Hotel as well. I gave this 4 stars. It might warrant a higher rating if I reread it, but for now, I'm giving it 4. And the 30th thing that I read in 2020 is JoJo's Bizarre... That's upside down. And the 30th thing that I read in 2020 is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood Part 1, which is the first part of the JoJo Bizarre Adventures full series. It follows a boy named Jonathan who's also called JoJo, and at the beginning of the book, this character, Dio, comes to live with them, and JoJo's dad basically adopts Dio, and they have tensions, basically. At the beginning of the manga series, Dio's biological father passes away, but instructs Dio to go to JoJo's dad and infiltrate their family. So Dio's dad is not even a good person, but Dio is straight up evil. Like, psychopath, terrible person, whoa, evil. They grow up together, and then during the course of this first volume, their rivalry really gets going. I will say that there is some extreme animal cruelty in this, so if you're not interested in that, give this one a pass because I almost lost my mind. The artwork is also very influenced by like 80s bodybuilders or something like that. So all of these characters, which are pretty young, are humongous. So like here's a picture of Dio, and this is I think when they were in high school, and JoJo's just as big. Like, they're giant. And I saw at the end of it that he was highly influenced by like Arnold Schwarzenegger and that style of bodybuilding, and that's why all the characters are freaking jacked. I enjoyed this. I wouldn't say it's my absolute favorite or anything, but I am interested in continuing because this is such a staple in the manga world. And I'm also very excited to see where the series will continue. There is a mask in this book that if it is given blood, then it attaches to someone and like grows into their face and gives them extreme powers. So I'm excited to see where everything will lead, but whoa, Dio is so freaking evil. I gave this first volume 3 stars, I believe. So those are the next 5 things that I read in 2020. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below what you've been reading since we're still social distancing. I hope you guys are all staying healthy and well and apart from each other. Nookie is still doing really well. His hair, can you see this? Is starting to grow back. His face is starting to heal up, so he's doing great. We are going to be filming a Bully Make unboxing. I have like 4 boxes to unbox soon, so you'll be able to see him and Jet and Belle. I also have my next wrap-up to film, as well as a book review of a book that I am so pumped for / loved. I also have a book haul, so look forward to all those things. Anything else you want me to know, leave it down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.